welcome to a program, Marriage and the Family. We are glad to be here again this evening. Um, we have the whole month we'll be talking about the concept of marriage. We'll be talking about the concept of marriage the whole week. This whole month, sorry. We have a long month theme, the concept of marriage. That's what we'll be talking about this week. This we'll be talking about the concept of marriage. And so today we'll be discussing marriage in creation, marriage in creation, marriage in creation. Uh, Please, you can share the show, tag your friends, invite others, to be a part. Um, you can go on our official Facebook page and like our page, Marriage in the Family page. Like our page and follow us there, and we'll be fine. So yes, we are starting a month-long theme, the concept of marriage, and basically this evening we'll be talking about marriage in creation. Marriage in creation. We'll be talking about marriage in creation. That's what we'll be talking about this evening. And just in case I'm going to post the link in the comment section. If you want to participate live, you can click on the link. The link is in the comment section. You can click on the link, and I'll let you in. Maybe you want to share your own idea, or you probably want to ask question. I will definitely let you in. Um, I'll let you in. So yeah, that's what we're discussing this evening. Um, Marriage in creation. Marriage in creation. And the text we will look at the text this evening is from Genesis 2:18. Genesis chapter 2, verse 18. In Genesis 2:18, it says, it is not good for the man to be alone, and I will make a helper suitable for him. God said it's not good for the man to be alone, and God said, I will make a helper suitable for him. I will make him a helpmeet. So the reality is that marriage is not a human intervention or cultural construct. Mm-mm. Marriage is not a human invention or cultural construct. In other words, it did not come from it's not man's idea, nor it's a cultural, put together cultural kind of stuff. No, it is not. On the contrary, marriage is a divine. It's a divine in origin. Marriage is divine in origin. In other words, the origin of marriage is from God. It's divine in origin. So it originated from God. In other words, and God Himself created and defined it in Eden. God Himself created marriage, and He defined it in Eden, in the Garden of Eden. He created and He defined it there. And this means marriage is sacred. It means that marriage is sacred. It's sacred. It's holy and is rooted in God's will, not in society's opinion. Mm-mm. So, number one, marriage is not a human invention or a cultural construct. It is divine in origin. So God Himself created marriage in the Garden of Eden, and He defined it. He defined it, created and defined it in the Garden of Eden. This means it means that marriage is sacred. Not only is it sacred, it's also holy, and is rooted in God's will. Marriage is rooted in the will of God and not in society's opinion. Not in society's opinion. It is not hidden that society tried to redefine marriage, and their redefinition of marriage is to rip marriage of of God's design, of God's design. So it is not society's opinion. Now, but Genesis 1:27, so God created mankind in his own image. God created mankind in God's own image. He created them male, he created them female. Male and female, he created them. So marriage, so it means that marriage reflects the complementary design of male and female. Marriage reflects the complementary design of male and female, and not interchangeable, but unique and purposeful. It's not interchangeable, but it is unique and purposeful. So the design of marriage is marriage reflects the complementary design of male and female, of male and female, and it complements that. It complements it complements that, and it's not interchangeable. It's not interchangeable, but unique and purposeful. Unique and purposeful. So the man and woman together, they reflect God's image. A man and a woman together reflects the image of God. He said he created them in his own image, male and female. Created he them. So they reflect God's image. The man and the woman, they reflect God's image. In equality in value, diversity in role, and unity in purpose. Okay, a man and a woman, they reflects God's image, but they have equality in value, equality in value, diversity in role, and unity in purpose. So, in other words, they God created them all the same. No one is more valuable than the other. No. So they have the same quality in terms of value. They were created in God's image. And they have diversity of role. Because you see, the roles are not the same. They got diversity of roles. So their role, there's a diversity in their role, but they do it in unity in purpose. Unity in purpose. Unity in purpose. They got different roles to play, but unity in purpose. Unity in purpose. So marriage as male and female, um, it reflects a complementary design of both male and female. It reflects that, and it is not interchangeable as they were, but it's unique and purposeful. Unique and purposeful. Now remember, now the man and the woman together reflects God's image, and they are equal in value. They are equal in value, diversity in roles, and 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 unity in purpose. Diversity in roles and unity in purpose. Unity in purpose. So let's look at marriage as a covenant. Marriage as a covenant, not a contract. Indeed, marriage is a covenant and not a contract. In Genesis 2:24, it said, therefore shall a man leave his mother and his father and be joined to his wife, and they shall become one flesh. And they shall become one flesh. The word join is a Hebrew word which means to cling, or to hold fast, to cling or to hold fast. It is a permanent covenantal bond, a permanent covenantal bond, covenant, permanent covenantal bond. So unlike contract, Marriage is unlike contract because contract can be broken. Contract can be broken. A covenant is a seal, is sealed by God. But covenant can be broken. For covenant can be broken and covenant can pass. It's an agreement rather, a contract. Contract can be broken, contract can pass. So unlike contract, unlike contract, which can be broken, a covenant is sealed by God. So the covenant can be broken or the covenant can expire. So the covenant has a time frame. When the time frame elapses, no covenant. Covenant is about mutual interest. Sorry, not covenant. Contract. Contract is about mutual interest. Contract is about mutual interest. A covenant is about mutual sacrifice. Mutual interest, mutual sacrifice. So unlike contract, which can stay, which is sealed by God, the covenant cannot be this. It cannot be broken. It's sealed by God. It is sealed by God. So marriage is a covenant and never a contract. Every time people would treat marriage as a contract, then of course it will receive the contract favor. It means that it will have to break apart. It means that it have a lifespan. And contract is you bring yours, I bring mine. Then we meet. No, that's what contract is. Contract says you do your part, I do my part. No, but covenant says whether you do or not, I'll still. So covenant and contract are not the same, and marriage is a covenant. It's not a contract. And how I wish that a lot of people would stop treating marriage as a contract. Treat marriage as a contract. And of course, like I said, the society try to redefine marriage. Society try to redefine marriage. And in other societies, they view marriage as a contract. They view marriage as a contract. And that is society's definition of marriage. But when you go to the origin, the design of a marriage, it's not a contract, it's a covenant. It is a covenant. Marriage is a covenant. And how I wish that, everyone would treat marriage as such. Everyone would treat marriage as such, as a covenant and not as a contract. Marriage as a covenant and not as a contract. But also, marriage is also it's so marriage. We can also look at oneness in marriage. Oneness in marriage. Oneness in marriage. Now remember, now I just said marriage is not a contract. Marriage is a covenant. Marriage is not a contract. Marriage is a covenant. A covenant can be broken by contract. A contract can be broken, sorry. A contract can be broken, but not a covenant. Because that covenant of marriage is sealed by God. So let's look at the other aspect of marriage, oneness in marriage. Oneness in marriage. In Genesis 2:24, it said God did not say husband and wife will become partners or companions only, but he said one flesh. In Genesis 2:24, they become only one flesh. And so oneness is more than physical intimacy. It is unity, body, spirit, and soul. It's unity, body, spirit, and soul. In Ephesians 5:31-32, Paul calls this a mystery that points to Christ and the church. a mystery that points to Christ and the church. So oneness is a mystery. The marriage of oneness. Oneness is a mystery. It's the mystery that God did not say, husband and wife will become partners or companions only, but he said it'll be one flesh. It's a mystery. It's a mystery. But let's look at the dimension of oneness. The dimension of oneness. What is the dimension of oneness? For instance, the physical oneness. Physical oneness. Expressing intimacy and exclusively. Expressing intimacy and exclusively. Now, in first, we can read that in First Corinthians 7:3-4. Each spouse belongs to the other. Each spouse belongs to the other. That dimension of oneness. I mean, the dimension of oneness. Expressing intimacy and exclusively. Each spouse belongs to the other. That protects against immorality and builds trust. The dimension of oneness. You talk about physical oneness now. Physical oneness is expressing intimacy and exclusively. Physical oneness is each other. Each is that each spouse belong to one another, belong to the other. Physical oneness, it means that you protect against immorality and builds trust. But what's about emotional oneness? Being one emotionally. It means you share your hearts, your feelings, your joys, and your burdens. That's emotional oneness. Share your heart, your joy, your feelings, your joy, your burdens, your feelings. Share as emotional oneness. Emotional oneness. In Genesis 2:25, he said they were both naked and were not ashamed. Emotional oneness. Emotional oneness. And it requires openness. It requires vulnerability and deep friendship. It requires openness. It requires you to be vulnerable, and it requires deep friendship. Yeah, it requires deep friendship. And we're talking about marriage. Marriage in creation. Marriage in creation. So we got dimensions of oneness, right? So we talk about physical oneness, emotional oneness, and spiritual. Now, let's look at spiritual oneness. Spiritual oneness, praying together, worshiping together, serving God together. Praying together, worshiping together, and serving God together. Spiritual oneness. Spiritual oneness. In Matthew 18:19, there's an agreement in prayer. Agreement in prayer carries power. You agree as touching one thing, it carries power. It turns down power. It carries power. Agreement. It carries power. Couples aligned spiritually walk in greater harmony. When you align spiritually, you can walk in greater harmony. So that's physical oneness, emotional oneness, and spiritual oneness. Because we're looking at a dimension of oneness. Dimensional oneness. Talk about creation in marriage. We look at oneness in marriage. Oneness. But also the requirements for oneness, the requirements of oneness for oneness. It may gotta leave, separating from past ties, like family priorities, shift old habits, cleave, be joined, a permanent covenant bond, commitment. Oneness cannot thrive without loyalty and sacrifice. Oneness cannot, so it gotta be commitment. So you gotta live in, cleave, and commit. Leave, cleave, and commit. That's the requirement for oneness. Leave, cleave, and commit. Requirement for oneness. Separation from your past ties. Join a permanent covenant bond. Commit oneness. You see, oneness cannot thrive without loyalty and sacrifice. So loyalty and sacrifice stand at the heart of oneness. But oneness can also be threatened. And what are the threats to oneness? Selfishness, me first, destroy unity. Secrets, hidden things break trust. Sin, unresolved conflicts, unforgiveness, infidelity. And Satan, the enemy hates godly marriages because they reflect Christ's union with the church. Yeah. So these are threats to oneness. Selfishness. Everything is about me. Hidden secrets. Those are threats. Because you see, when you hide a secret and it's found out, it sounds like a betrayal, and it breaks trust. It breaks trust. And what are the blessings of oneness? Peace in the home. That's the blessing of oneness. Peace in the home. Strength in agreement. Peace in the home. Unity bring rest. Psalm 33 verse 133 1. Strength in agreement. One can put 10, two can put 10,000 to flight. Deuteronomy 32:20. Reflection of God's image. Oneness mirrors the Trinity, the three persons, one essence. And oneness reflect generational fruitfulness. Children thrive in a home where parents are united. It reflects generational fruitfulness. So what are the practical steps for oneness? What are the practical steps for oneness? Pray together daily. Communicate openly and often. Forgive quickly and let go of offenses. Spend intentional time together, quality time, date nights. Keep Christ at the center. He is the glue that makes the two one. Keep Christ at the center. He is the glue that makes the two one. So you see, marriage as oneness is not automatic. Marriage as oneness, it is not automatic. It is a daily choice to unite physically, to unite emotionally and spiritually. And it requires leaving, cleaving, and committing. It requires leaving, cleaving, and committing. When a couple walks in oneness, their marriage becomes a testimony of Christ's love for the church. Marriage becomes a testimony of the love of Christ for the church. It becomes a testimony for Christ's love for the church. Yeah. And in marriage, so now we see oneness in marriage. Marriage and fruitfulness. Marriage and fruitfulness. In Genesis 1:28. In Genesis 1:28, it says, be fruitful and multiply. Be fruitful and multiply. Be fruitful and multiply. He said, God blessed them and said to them, be fruitful and multiply in number. Fill the earth and subdue it. Genesis 1:28. Now, fruitfulness is God's blessing. Fruitfulness is God's blessing. You see, fruitfulness in marriage begins with a blessing from God and not just human effort. In Psalm 127 verse 3, it says, children are a heritage to the Lord, a heritage from the Lord. So God's blessing to Adam and Eve shows that marriage was created for multiplication, expansion, and legacy. So marriage, fruitfulness in marriage is God's blessing. But there are also dimensions of fruitfulness in marriage. There are dimensions of fruitfulness in marriage. You got biblical fruitfulness, or biological fruitfulness. It's a procreation or procreation. Um, procreation. I mean, children are part of God's original design for marriage. So talk about procreation. Yeah. I mean, children are part of God's design, original design for the family. Part of God's original design for the family. Yeah. Part of God's original design for the family. Then you got legacy and continuity. You got procreation, legacy, and now you have then you have legacy and continuity. Now, what is legacy? Now, passing faith to the next generation, Malachi 2:15. Passing faith to the next generation. Raising children in God's ways ensures his kingdom advances. So there are dimensions of fruitfulness. You got biological fruitfulness, but you also got relational fruitfulness. Relational fruitfulness. A healthy, loving marriage produces a home that is filled with peace, joy, and stability. And it's filled with peace, joy, and stability. So you got relational fruitfulness. The love between a husband and a wife overflows into the lives of children, family, and the community. That's relational fruitfulness. Then, of course, we got spiritual fruitfulness. Spiritual fruitfulness. A marriage grounded in Christ bears spiritual fruit. A marriage that's grounded in Christ bears spiritual fruit. Love, joy, peace, patience, kindness. As you see in Galatians 5:22-23. Couples together influence others. Disciples discipline their children and build God's kingdom. It's not relational fruitfulness. But we can also talk about vocational and missional fruitfulness. Missional fruitfulness. Now, you see, Adam and Eve were called to subdue the earth and rule over it. Marriage is also a partnership for stewardship. It's a partnership for stewardship. Couples can build businesses, ministries, and community projects that bless generations. So it's possible that fruitfulness can be hindered. Fruitfulness can be hindered. So what are the hindrances to fruitfulness? Sin, sin, sin. Sin is number one hindrance to fruitfulness. Broken fellowship with God often affects productivity. Broken fellowship with God often affect productivity. Genesis chapter 3. Strife in marriage. Division hinders prayer and blessings. Division hinders prayer and blessings. 1 Peter chapter 3 verse 7. Another hindrance to fruitfulness is selfishness and disobedience. Fruitfulness thrives in obedience to God. Fruitfulness thrives in obedience to God, not disobedience. So you see, the hindrances to fruitfulness are sin, strife in marriage, selfishness, and disobedience. Those are the things that hinders fruitfulness in marriage. So how can you unlock fruitfulness in marriage? Yeah, a few keys. Yeah, a few keys that can unlock fruitfulness in marriage, or that can unlock unfruitfulness in marriage. Number one, abiding in Christ. True fruitfulness flows from connection with the vine. True fruitfulness flow from connection with the vine. Jesus said, I'm the vine, you are the branches. Except you abide in me, apart from me, you can do nothing. John 15:5. The number one key to unlock unfruitfulness is abiding in Christ. It's abiding in Christ. The second key is unity in marriage. Agreement brings multiplication. Agreement brings multiplication. Another key that unlock unfruitfulness in marriage is prayer together, inviting God's blessings over the family, the children, and work. Another key that unlocks unfruitfulness is generosity. Generosity. Fruitful marriage it gives and therefore keep receiving. Fruitful marriage gives and therefore keep receiving. In Luke 6:38, give and shall be given unto you. And the last key to unlock unfruitfulness is faithfulness. Faithfulness. A fruitful marriage remains committed to God's covenant. A fruitful marriage remains committed to God's faithfulness. To God's faithfulness. But the blessings of fruitfulness. Oh yeah, fruitfulness has blessing. Fruitfulness ensures generational impact. It ensures generational impact. Couples become a testimony of God's goodness. Their home becomes a source of blessing to the church and community. In Psalm 128, verse 3, your wife will be like a fruitful vine. Your children will be like olive shoots around your table. So you see, marriage and fruitfulness go hand in hand. Fruitfulness is more than having children. Mm-mm. Fruitfulness is more than having children. It is about multiplication in love, multiplication in peace, multiplication in godliness, multiplication in influence, and legacy. So it's more than having children. A truly fruitful marriage glorifies God, bless generations, and advance his kingdom. Yeah, and advance his kingdom. Fruitfulness in marriage, and advance God's kingdom. Fruitfulness in marriage. But also, marriage but also um, marriage as partnership in purpose. Now we're talking about marriage in creation, right? Marriage in creation, and the overall theme we have is the concept of marriage. So we're looking at marriage in creation. Now, marriage as partnership in purpose. Now, you see, Adam and Eve, Adam was given the responsibility over the garden, Genesis 2:15. And Eve was created as a helper suitable for him. Helper does not mean inferior. Helper. It does not mean inferior. Because a lot of time people mistake, and sometimes the men mistaken, and think that because it's a helper, she's inferior. But on the contrary, she's even probably higher. Even probably higher. So helper does not mean inferior. Helper in no way means inferior. Doesn't mean inferior. It is the same word or use. It is the same word use of God as our helper. So marriage is therefore a partnership in God's mission. It's a partnership in God's mission to steward creationship, to steward creation, to build families, and to advance God's kingdom. So yes, marriage is a partnership in purpose. And it is to steward creation, build families, and advance God's kingdom. And advance God's kingdom. And advance God's kingdom. Now, never ever think, never think for once that when they say helper, it means inferior. No. In no way it means nothing as such. It doesn't come close to that. In no way. It doesn't mean inferior. In fact, the way I would pull it is that if you needed help, you think you're going to get somebody weaker or somebody stronger than you. Of course, you have somebody stronger, because if you get somebody weaker, who is weaker than you are, then it means that you won't go anywhere, because the same strength level of strength you got, that's what they bring, instead of bring nothing different. They bring nothing different. Nothing different. So you see, marriage in creation is God's idea, is God's design, is God's gift. It is covenantal. It is covenantal. It is complementary. It is fruitful and purposeful. It reflects his image. It reflects his unity, and it reflects his love. It reflects his image. It reflects his unity, and it reflects his love. So God's idea, marriage did not just begin with man, culture, or government. It began in the Garden of Eden, initiated by God himself. He created them male and female, equal value, yet distinct in role. God gave Eve. Eve was presented to Adam, and God's gift, and Adam recognized her as bone of his bone and bone of his own bones. So marriage is covenantal. That's what we need to understand. It's not just a contract, but a lifelong bond between God and before God. A lifelong bond before God. It's complementary. Marriage is complementary. Husband and wife being strengths, bring strengths that complement each other. Marriage is fruitful. Marriage carries the blessings of multiplication, both biological, spiritual, and both biological and spiritual. And marriage is purposeful. Together, couples reflect God's glory. It stewards his creation and advances his kingdom. And marriage reflects God's image. His image, male and female. His unity as a trinity, three in one, and it's love. So marriage is a living picture of Christ's love for the church. A living picture of Christ's love for the church. So marriage in creation is God's idea. Marriage in creation is God's design. Marriage in creation is God's gift. It is covenantal. It is complementary. It is fruitful. It is purposeful. It reflects His image. It reflects His unity. It reflects His love. Marriage. So that's what I wanted to share tonight, this evening. If there's a question or somebody has a comment, we will be very glad um, to answer those topics. Hey, Sister Sisi, how you doing? Welcome. Welcome, Sister Sisi. Good to see you. Yeah, so marriage, it is marriage in creation is God's idea. It's God's idea, and and I pray, hope that that we can follow. And like I said, the world tried to redefine marriage. The world tried to redefine marriage, but it doesn't work. The word redefinition of marriage, the only thing it tried to do is try to rip it off of God's original design, because marriage is God's original design. He is the orchestrator of marriage. It originated in the Garden of Eden. It originated in the Garden of Eden. Marriage is not human invention or cultural construct. No, culture has nothing to do with marriage. It's not cultural construct, not as a human invention. It is purely divine. And God Himself created and defined marriage in the Garden of Eden. God Himself. So yes, marriage is God's design. It's not man's design. So unless you got some questions, other than that, I'm done. And I might just call it a quit. And I hope to see you again on 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 Thursday. Yeah, Thursday will be here again with another edition of the program, Marriage and the Family. And I hope, Sis Kasisi, I hope you could join me on Thursday, or you can join me on Saturday, better still, unless you have something going on Thursday. But other than that, yeah, we'll be here on Thursday. So again, I just want to say thanks to you all for watching. Please share the show. Go on our official page, on our official Marriage and the Family Facebook page. Go on our official Marriage and the Family Facebook page and like the page and follow us. Like our page and follow us there on our official page. Like and follow us, and like our page and follow us there, and and we'll be very glad that you did. So thank you so much for following today, and we give God all the praise, we give God all the glory, and I just want to say shalom, shalom, and I'll catch you again Thursday. Until then, have a wonderful, wonderful, God bless you day.